Thank you. So today I will talk about semi-definite programs, especially a new package that I think would be useful for solving them, which is low-rank opt. So first, let's recap what is a semi-definite program. So this is how you write it. You have a big X matrix, which is symmetric, and you want it to be positive semi-definite. And on the dual, you also have a matrix that you want to be positive semi-definite. And then you have, that's the way you like to write it. So you have these AI matrices that are some constant symmetric matrices, the C as well. And you write the constraint with this scalar product, which means you want to do the sum of the pairwise product of these entries or the trace of the product as you want. So if you can use many convex solver for this. The advantage is that it's convex, so you are sure to get the optimal solution. You even have polynomial type algorithms to solve it. We have many solvers to do that. The issue is that you have quite a large number of variables. So if x is n by n, so you have n square variable. So when n is large, that's a large optimization problem. And the thing is that sometimes you know that maybe x or maybe z, you know that the solution, there is a solution that's actually low rank, but here you cannot really exploit it except in some solvers that you can check. And even sometimes these solvers are actually geared to a high rank solution, and so after you find the solution, if you were looking for low rank, you may be disappointed. And so one idea that comes from Burer-Monteiro is to, if we want a low rank solution, let's just, instead of search for this x, we search for directly the factor of x called u. And then we are sure that, because by design, the way we search for x is going to be PSD, and it's also going to be low rank if we say that u has only r columns. So then we don't even have this complicated PSD constraint anymore. The only thing is that, well, you might, the problem now becomes non-convex because it's quadratic constraint, but non-convex quadratic constraints. So you've reduced the number of variables a lot, but it's not convex. One thing though is that even if it's not convex, you can still keep track of the dual variable y. And even if you don't really look at z during the solve, at the end, you can actually, you have found all your dual variables y, you can build the z matrix and you can check if it's PSD. And actually, if it's PSD, it means you have the primal solution that's feasible. You have the dual solution that's also feasible. If y is such that you have complementary exactness, it means actually you have found a global optimal solution. So you can check a posteriori that you actually have found the global optimum. It's just that a priori you don't know. Maybe it's not going to work. And in practice, what we notice is that if you increase the rank R, you are more likely to get the global optimum. But of course, you also get more variables. And so, okay, so how do we transmit semi-definite programs to solvers? One thing that's quite popular is the SDPA format. So in this format, the whole idea is that if you want to describe either the primal or the dual, the only thing you need to provide is this C matrix. This is this A matrices and this B vector. One thing that's extremely important is that usually you don't have just one big PSD matrices, you have a few matrices. Some of them may even be just scalar variables and some are small matrices. So if you always want to represent things as one big matrix, it's of course going to be extremely inefficient. So you usually represent X as a block diagonal matrix. And so that's the SDPA format. You specify how many blocks, the dimension of each block, and then you give these C matrices, these AI matrices, and this B vector. But the way you represent these matrices are with sparse matrix. Okay, and this is nice for many problems, but this is very inefficient for problems where this is inefficiently represented as a sparse matrix. Sometimes the AI matrices, they're actually not sparse, but they are rank 1 maybe. So if you represent AI by actually the factors, it's much more efficient than if you try to, this rank 1 matrix, if you try to represent it as sparse matrix, it's completely dense. So you need to give absolutely all the entries, so n square entries, and the factor is maybe just n elements. So it's going to be inefficient to give it to the solver, and the solver, when it's going to take a scalar product with X, it's also going to be extremely inefficient because it doesn't have the right representation for A. And also sometimes this A matrix, you also sometimes don't want to represent it. Maybe you want to say, okay, this is just some linear map. It's just when you multiply a vector by A, I can actually do it efficiently by maybe doing an FFT. And so if I have to represent X as a sparse matrix, I lose everything. And so over the years, there have been many SDP solvers that felt very constrained by this format, and so that naturally wanted to actually extend this format. And so here I kept track of a few extensions. So one that's extremely popular is to say I also want to represent matrices that are actually low rank with some dense factor Fi. If we look at Hypatia, actually, we can think of it in this framework as saying that actually the AI matrices are rank 1, and also the X matrix, I am never going to access it with something else that is rank 1 matrices. Because some PhD solvers, they say, okay, some of the AI matrices are going to be rank 1, but some are sparse. So it's like the AI matrices that I multiply with X, it's sparse plus low rank. But in Hypatia, you have some blocks X for which you want to say that this block will only be accessed with scalar product with orthogonal rank 1 matrices. And with this special structure, they're extremely efficient. Okay, so this is the kind of format that if you're able to specify to Hypatia that your problem is like that, is going to be extremely fast. There also, okay, case where AI is just a diagonal matrix. Okay, this is sparse, but even more specific. As I say, when it can be expressed with FFT. Also, sometimes if you want to represent these AI matrices as sparse matrices in Julia, maybe you want to use the compressed CSC format. But the issue with this format, if you think about it, is that you need to represent the list of, for every column, the pointer to the first element of the columns. But if you have a sparse matrix 1000 by 1000 with one element, that's often the case, well, you still have to go through the 1000 columns to see that there is nothing in most of these columns. So sometimes if the matrix is extremely sparse, like even less than n elements, you prefer the CO format where you just have the list of the IGK entries. And also very recently, CU-ALA, which is a Burer-Monteiro solver under the GPU, they say something that's quite appropriate for some problem is to represent it with some factorization like this, where di is a square matrix, which is very small, but not necessarily diagonal. And so they say if you actually extend to this, there is many more solvers for which you can do something efficient. So you see that there is actually plenty of ideas that could be exploited, but when the solver add these, of course, they cannot be used through the standard modeling tool like JUMP or similar. And so they need to somehow have a custom way to specify these matrices, and because that's difficult to use, then maybe nobody is going to exploit, or not many people is going to know that this exists and exploit it. And so the idea of low rank opt is to make it very easy from JUMP to actually specify these matrices for the solvers. And so we have defined actually 4 sets. So the 2 sets on the top, these are the sets where you say actually, so I want to create this PSD matrix, and I will need to take scalar product between these PSD matrices and these AI matrices. And so the AI matrices, they are arguments of the set. And you also say that this set, if you look at actually the set, you only get the scalar product of X with these matrices. So after you create this matrix, you only have access to this scalar product. You are not able to use this matrix anymore and take scalar product with between this matrix and other AIs. And so this is basically what Hypatia will want, because then Hypatia is sure that this matrix is only being used by taking scalar product with this AI. And if these AI are rank 1 matrices, Hypatia knows that it can do the more efficient thing. But most of the solvers, they will say, okay, I want to take scalar product between X and maybe some low rank matrices, but also give me X, and maybe I will also take scalar product with sparse matrices the usual way. And then you have the corresponding dual set as well, which is the dual. Okay, and so the idea in low-rank opt is that if you want to write a SDP solver and start to support more than sparse matrices, just implementing the interaction between your PSD matrices and all these, the user data, the AI matrices, the C matrix, and the B matrix becomes quite a complicated problem, and you probably don't want all SDP solver to redo this part. And so the idea is that low-rank opt will implement an MOI interface that will have support for these custom sets, and then take the scalar product with all these AI matrices the best way. And then the SDP solver will actually only do the rest, so do the iterative optimization. And whenever he wants to interact with the data of the problem, it will just call some function, some callbacks, like, okay, I want to take somehow, evaluate all the errors and the equality constraints and things like that. And so in a sense, then the way the solver is going to interact with the data is a lot closer to how NLP models works. So in NLP models, the solvers, you just give it a callbacks to ask for the gradient, the Jacobian vector product, and so on. And so that's why the way that the SDP solver should be written to be used with low-rank opt is to actually expect the problem to be explained with NLP models, except that we used a few extensions depending on in which category the solver is. So the solver can either be a convex solver that solves the problem in the classic way, searching for X, or it can be a Burer-Monteiro approach. So if it's a Burer-Monteiro approach, because after Burer-Monteiro, the problem at the end, it doesn't have the PSD constraint on X anymore. It's just regular nonlinear problems. Actually, if you use low-rank opt with the Burer-Monteiro formulation, you can just use any nonlinear solvers that's already there in NLP models. So for example, you can use Percival and it just works. But also there are some solvers that are specific for Burer-Monteiro, like this one. And so what we've been looking at is try to refactor it to be able to use it with low-rank opt. And so what it does, in addition to just a standard nonlinear solver, is that it has a few places, specific thing that it does that it is only valid basically for Burer-Monteiro problems. And these things are, for example, when you do a line search, actually you know that because when you do a line search, it's univariate. And when you look at the function you're optimizing, it's always just a quartic polynomial. And minimizing quartic polynomial, it's trivial when it's univariate. You just compute the root, and then it's one of the roots. So the roots of the derivative. And so this is one optimization that is done. And also something that is done as well is that at some point, if it's tricky, the problem, you can increase the rank and try to continue the optimization with a higher rank because you expect it to be easier. And so it needs a way to ask low-rank opt to increase the rank, so change a bit the optimization problem and continue. And so, yeah. And the whole idea is that if a solver uses low-rank opt to interface itself with jump, it will be much easier. It doesn't have to write an MOI wrapper. It just needs to access the interfaces solvers with these callbacks. And also, for free, is going to exploit any type of matrix AI because this is done by low-rank opt. Okay, and this is going through NLP models, and we just had, in each case, to slightly extend the NLP models. So for the convex solvers, what you typically do is that the second-order solver then needs to solve the KKT system, but instead of solving it for both the X, Z matrix and the Y vector, there is some trick to reformulate it as a system on Y only, which is much smaller. And so you need to compute basically this H matrix, which is what low-rank opt will do. And so we worked on refactoring Lorraine, which is a standard second-order convex solver for SDPs, to actually use low-rank opt. And so that was a nice way to do, okay, what are all the things that it needs? And let's try to make it never access the AI explicitly. And so that's basically the main extension that we had to do. And this is this is the extension you did for Burer-Monteiro, but I didn't explain them. Okay, so a small trick. If you want to support any matrix type, well, that means that in low-rank opt, because we want to allow the user to give any matrix, we cannot give any constraint. We cannot list that it can be either a dense, sparse, or low-rank matrix, because then the user cannot give something else. So we need to somehow say, okay, we are going to accept any abstract matrix. But it also means that when the solver is going to call, do the callbacks, when we access these matrices, it's going to be type unstable and slow in Julia. And so the only thing we need to know is that when the user has finished giving the problem, before we call the solver, we are just going to make this concrete. And so we look at the list of all the types of matrices that we have. We do a union, and then we convert, so that then in the callbacks, what we see is the vector when inside it's a small union, and Julia handled this efficiently since many years ago, and so that's efficient. And so we did a small benchmark with François to solve sum of square problem. So now in sum of square, if you use the trigonometric basis with the Lagrange basis, this will use the FFT to these AI matrices will be equivalent to calling the FFT. And so if you want to use GS, we try with different GSO solvers, which is BFGS and Shrunk, using the FFT. And because these solvers are actually working on the GPU, we could benchmark by increasing the size of the polynomial up to almost 1 million. And it worked. You could see that the GPU basically is just constant because the sizes are too small. And the CPU is faster for small size, and then it increases. Okay, that's it for me.